All right, my name is Matt Walsh, otherwise known as Dr. Kobra. I'm currently a professor of graphic design in Grand Valley, but I'm interested in writing, illustration, and history. And I want to talk about what I've noticed over the past almost a century, how companies and the idea of design have been this whole race to the bottom of getting more and more simplistic in their forms, to the point of a streamlined effect. For example, we'll go back to the mystical land of the 80s and the cola wars between Pepsi and Coke. It was like the taste test challenge. I usually preferred Pepsi in the can, Coke in a fountain, but virtually they're almost the same kind of drink, though companies would have you think otherwise. It's a little brutal right there. In fact, they both started in the late 1800s from this very calligraphic kind of style for their logos. If you notice, Pepsi has kind of gone more and more simple as time goes on, where Coca-Cola has kind of hit their formula, and with this aberration of new Coke in the 80s, they said, oh, we fucked up, so let's get back to the original. Pepsi has tried to approach the audience in a mass market way. Much like Apple, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak said, we want to establish ourselves as this old-fashioned company. We need money. Down to the point, we got all the money. We need this international symbol that anybody across the country would recognize, independent of language. Maybe Isaac Newton's been hired as one of the new Apple team. And we see this in companies across. We start complex with the styles and fashions of the 19th century and get more and more simpler as time goes on, with the idea of mass production, larger audiences, different ways of producing at a quicker and faster pace. So we see, for example, KFC starts off as, this is a place where you gotta go to a guy's house. He cooks you chicken on his back porch. It gets more commodified. We get the 90s where it's like fast to you, American colors, red, white, and blue. A MySpace picture in 1997 of the Colonel, and now in 2007 he's become the employee. He went from owner to employee. We see this idea of simplicity. You get to the point of this very limited expression. The mountaintop. You top your field in airplanes, beer, water. The mountaintop's very tiny. How can everybody be at the top of their field? They can't all stand there. So we get these similar kind of forms, and as a result, this message becomes blunted. Like, let's take another example. A dog bakery, where they actually don't cook dogs, but they bake baked goods for dogs. Biscuits and cakes and whatnot. It's a mom and pop operation might hire a designer to create a logo. And without proper research, we tend to go to these very simplistic first thought ideas. Dogs with chef's hats, the actual bones with bites taken out. Dog bakery, just basically they cook you up. There's a lot of nuance even in a dog bakery, but we don't take advantage of. This is a random Google sampling of just dog bakery logos. Very common ideas across the board from different parts of the country. And I think with this process of simplifying, we simplify the message to reach a broader audience, but we lose individuality. Because we want to try to talk to as many people as possible, we lose the capacity to tell a story. Without nuance, it's just a bland message, some easily digestible, but without flavor. Much like, I guess, a dog biscuit. So this is a random sampling of the best winners for Best Movie of the Oscars from almost from the very beginning to a couple years ago. And I think we notice a certain theme. The movie poster is almost like this kind of thing that outside the movie theater, it gives you an idea what you're about to see. Romance, comedy, horror, and so on. And I think the problem is, when you have a movie poster that actually focuses on the actors, whether in old Hollywood, like Clark Gable's in it, Greta Garbo, Bogey, Bergman, and so on, it's about the character. It's not about the story. You go to this movie because this particular actor is in it. You like this actor in other movies, so therefore you'll like this movie. It's a very commodified way of looking at film. And in fact, we still see it now. Nothing about these, I mean, Tom Hanks' Forrest Gump, he's sitting on the bench. Nothing about all the stuff that happens in the movie. Nothing about all this historical stuff. The guy being this character. So put a cool person on the cover, you'll sell tickets. And I think that's what led us to this idea of simplicity, where it doesn't matter what the story is. We remember these people from certain things. They quote the lines from their previous movie. The story is almost a second thought. You go to see this whole cast of characters. This fact it's a sequel is like they managed to wring so much more out of these people the second time around. Back for war. But you know, you can look at someone like Saul Bass, who actually goes for a more graphic approach rather than relying on just the characters as a way of telling the story. It may be simple in form, but actually goes to larger issues of what the story can be. It's about the story, not necessarily who the actor or actress playing the role. And I think this approach you start seeing on an international level. Polish poster for Hitchcock's The Birds versus the American one. Is something scary, the actual bird's attacking you, the Polish word for bird is attacking you, versus a nice bedtime story. You're not so scared by this. Featuring Tippi Hedren, it's like, you're not so scary, you got these nice people. Hitchcock's going to guide you through it. Or even, you get the Russian designer who has no idea what Star Wars is, and the person calls him and says, it's like a Western in space. So, you got this idea of the cowboy, and almost in a weird way, I kind of like this interpretation of Star Wars better, because it takes you a different viewpoint of the movie. It's not about Luke's story, it's about Western in space. I mean, the fact is Tatooine was the desert planet, or even Ghana, and they had these hand-painted posters by hook or by crook. They're going to show a movie, whether it's in a rundown theater or hooking up a projector to the battery in the car. Look, it's all about love. The O in Terminator is a heart because he finds its humanity. And I love the fact versus the Stone Cold Killer there, it's like, the person cares about movies. So I teach movie poster design as focusing on elements about the story rather than relying on the Hollywood system of the floating head or the actor to sell the film. So these are some student projects from classes of mine. Wow. And so hopefully I want to try and create a new generation of designers who think about content creation and story control so they don't end up as a burger flipper, or more literally a chicken flipper, for mass-produced consumption of design as a customer service skill. Thank you very much.